politician, you are a racist. Or if you say conditions in a neighborhood are unlivable, that's maybe populated by a lot of blacks, you're also a racist. That's what Trump said. But then so did Bernie Sanders back in 2015.
The fact of the matter is that America is the wealthiest country in the history of the world. But anyone who took the walk that we took around this neighborhood would not think you're in a wealthy nation. You would think that you were in a third world country where unemployment is over 50%. A community that does not even have decent quality grocery stores where moms can buy quality food for their kids. A community in which the dream of getting a higher education for many kids is as real as is going to the moon.
Sounds kind of unlivable. And then Bernie was on CNN with Jake Tapper yesterday, and somehow Jake must have forgotten what Bernie had said back in 2015, and Bernie didn't mention it.
Joining me now in Detroit, 2020 presidential candidate, Senator Bernie Sanders. And Senator Sanders, I know you want to talk about issues, but I do also want to talk about what President Trump said about your former colleague in the House, Elijah Cummings, and his district being, quote, a disgusting rat and rodent-infested mess that no human being would want to live in. What's your response?
Jake, it's unbelievable that we have a president of the United States who attacks American cities, who attacks Americans, who attacks somebody who's a friend of mine. Elijah Cummings is one of the most decent and outstanding members of the House of Representatives. He fights every day to improve life in his community. I do find it interesting that when we have rural Republican districts where life expectancy is going down, where downtowns are boarded up, where people are struggling, and people are struggling in rural America, they're struggling in urban America, they're struggling in suburban America. Our job is to bring people together to improve life for all people, not to have a racist president who attacks people because they are African Americans. That is a disgrace, and that is why we're going to defeat this president.
And of course, that's not what he did. Okay, now here are some numbers for you from the schools in Elijah Cummings' district, some of them anyway. Dunbar High School, 5% were proficient in reading, 5%. That's 95% of them weren't. 12% were proficient in math. 15% of Baltimore City students passed the state English test. That means 85% of the students did not pass an English proficiency test. Who's teaching whom? And what's being taught? 90% of students at one Baltimore high school had the lowest possible score you can get on a math test. 90% had the lowest possible score you can get on a math test. And here's another one. In Baltimore's 39 high schools, not a single student scored proficient on the state math exam. Sounds to me like a pretty bad neighborhood. You might need to find somebody to lead them out of there.
Hey, come on, baby, follow me. I'm the Pied Piper. Follow me. I'm the Pied Piper, and I'll show you where it's at. Come on, baby, can't you see? I'm the Pied Piper. Trust in me. I'm the Pied Piper.
Recent storms have done a number on Pittsburgh homes and businesses. This is John Steigerwald. If you've had damage to your roof, windows, siding, or gutters and downspouts, you may be eligible to get them replaced or repaired free of charge. All you have to do is visit WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com for a free inspection from one of their highly trained appraisers. With over 50 years in home remodeling, Windows R Us is the area's premier exterior replacement company for roofs, siding, gutters and downspouts, doors, and of course windows. If damage isn't your issue and you just want something new, you'll love their no-pressure approach, no hidden fees, and one of the fastest turnaround times in the industry. Why pay twice as much with other companies? Visit the area's premier exterior replacement company at WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. Mention STAG for an additional 10% off at WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. That's WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. Windows R Us, proud sponsor of the Jerk of the Week, heard every Friday right here on The John Steigerwald Show. WindowsRUsPittsburgh.com. If you're an employer, a business owner, if you have 5 to 100 employees, listen up. The cost of doing business continues to skyrocket, strangling your HR department with more regulations, administrative duties, and liability than ever. I'm John Steigerwald. Your health plan's a big part of that cost. Another year, another 10% rate hike, another $1,000 increase on your deductible, another hospital or doctor you can't go to because they're not in the network. Isn't it time for a change? Well, stop the insanity and call Marley Financial, the most innovative agency in the industry. Put an end to the annual increase. Give your employees a national network that all hospitals accept and reduce your monthly premiums by 20 to 30%. It doesn't matter when your renewal is. Marley can help today. Call 724-884-1496. Marley Financial, 724-884-1496. 724-884-1496. We're talking to Rocky Blyer. He's involved with the Miracle League of Moon Township and the construction of a Miracle League athletic field. The fields are designed to make it possible for kids with special needs to play sports.
Every child, no matter what the situation, deserves a chance to be able to play, to compete, and have a place that's safe, takes care of needs, that's organized. This will be the fourth Miracle League field that will be built. Now we got 4 places to be able to travel, so it broadens the whole interest of sports. It's just terrific for a community to do that.
There's a buddy system I thought was pretty impressive. What's that all about?
Kids with special needs have a buddy, a child who's in school. It's like having an older brother or sister involved with you. So it's really good, and that everybody has human dignity of being able to participate.
The website is miraclesinmoon.org. Check it out, and let's help make this dream a reality. Hey, Rocky, thanks, and we'll be talking to you again about this project. Appreciate you coming on to talk about it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Thanks.
Rocky
All right,
Blyer, and we'll be right back.
What is a warrior? At Portersville Christian School, a warrior is more than a team name. Here, at their fully accredited K through 12th grade Christian school, just 15 minutes north of Cranberry, a warrior is taught to serve, to passionately model the love of Christ toward neighbor, community, and world. A warrior is challenged to learn as they develop a strong work ethic, achieve academic excellence, and cultivate a lifelong love of learning. And a warrior is trained to lead through Christian character and integrity so they can impact the world for Christ by their example wherever God calls them. So, are you a warrior? Discover Portersville Christian School, a fully accredited K through 12th grade Christian school just 15 minutes north of Cranberry, where warriors are made. At ourpcs.org. That's OURPCS.org.
You're listening to The John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, I gave you a lot of pretty ridiculous numbers there about the Baltimore schools before the break. A little while ago, I spoke to Liz Bowie. She's the education reporter for the Baltimore Sun. I tried to get some explanation for some of these numbers. I really appreciate her taking the time, and maybe it's just me, but I don't know. I detected a lot of apologizing going on there for what appears to be the total failure of the Baltimore City schools. Maybe I'm wrong. She's only a reporter, not a columnist. I'll let you be the judge. Here's my conversation with Liz Bowie. So I know the Baltimore City schools are ranked near the bottom in reading and math scores compared to other large urban areas. I understand you've been on the beat for 20 years. Has that always been the case?
Well, the test that you're referring to, the NAEP, for cities has not been around that long.
Oh, okay.
And for instance, not every city participates. So, for instance, Pittsburgh does not participate. It has apparently decided that it doesn't care to have its students tested. So it's not, it's not a test that I can say one way or the other the students have scored on particularly low that for the last 20 years.
But if you've been covering the beat, is just in general then, where has Baltimore been in the rankings on various tests and other ways to measure this kind of thing?
Well, Baltimore and most urban cities score lower than the state as a whole, the states they're in as a whole. That's consistent throughout the country, and right. Baltimore is consistent in that norm. Actually, Baltimore last year is beginning to show some improvement. And on the latest round of PARCC tests, which are very difficult tests that are given in some other states across the country, Baltimore made the largest percentage point gains of nearly all of the other school districts in the state. So they're actually rapidly improving. Their scores are still very low, but under the leadership of a new chief executive officer over the last several years, starting to show some real gains.
What? Sorry. What if it's a she? Is that Sonia Santelises? Sonia.
Yeah, Sonia Santelises, who was in charge of academics under another leader, then left the city for a while and came back as the new head of the school system. And she's been here 3 years and going on 4, and we expect that she will ask for another contract, 4-year contract.
Mm-hmm.
And across the nation, long-lived superintendents their districts tend to show greater progress. I think one of the problems in Baltimore has been a very rapid turnover in superintendents.
I saw in your story that on the story that I'm looking at here was from last year, I think.
I think that was based on 2017 test scores, testing, and so that is older than the tests that were released.
Okay, but in that story, you said that she declined to be interviewed. Is that an issue that they're not they're media shy?
No, in fact, Sonia Santelises is quite open and a profile of her, a long profile of her. She, after the most recent set of tests, she said that the city is nowhere near where it needs to be. She certainly, I think her quote was, "We're not holding a parade over these test scores, but they are showing improvement." In fact, there were 40 schools in the district that had showed a 5 percentage point gain, at least a 5 percentage point gain in both math or reading scores. So, not to say that they are scoring well, but there are certainly in the city large areas of concentrated poverty, and it's difficult to show increases in those areas.
Yeah, I had some numbers that I came across. I think in a column by Walter Williams, and I don't know what exact tests that he's referring to. And some of these I think most of these are high school and not 4th to 8th grade, which I think is the one you were talking about. Well, first, before I get to that though, in the story that I saw that you wrote based on 2017, said only 13% of 4th graders were proficient in math and 11% of 8th graders were proficient in math. Are teachers ever held accountable for that kind of failure? I mean, that's failure. That's abject I mean, it's failure by the students, obviously, but whose fault is it, and are they ever called to account on it?
Well, I think you have to in perspective in that the scores of the tests are very, very difficult, and the Park tests, which were given in 2018, very consistent. Like the numbers between the 2017 test, that's a national test, and the Park test is given it to Maryland are fairly consistent. So, for instance, there's a 17 or 18% pass rate for English and a 15% pass rate roughly for math.
Where's
in
that?
The grades, that's in Baltimore.
Okay.
But you have to understand that statewide, there's only about 40% of students are passing. So
I don't know if that's something to be. I think that's even worse. That only 40. Either they got a bad test, or they're not doing something right. I mean, if only 40% is an F, that's terrible.
Well, that's probably consistent. Maryland scores are very consistent with Pennsylvania.
I understand
scores.
that. Yeah.
So your school system and your state tests are probably, the students are scoring about the same as they are in Maryland.
Well,
I think they did slightly better on the NAEP in reading than Maryland did.
But I guess my question would be, and I don't want to be beating you up over Baltimore's school tests, but
all I'm saying is that yes, these scores are not good, and nobody in Baltimore or Maryland is saying they're good scores. But you have to put it in the context of your state and your city, which has declined to participate even in that.
Well, in your reporting, have you? found out about the test, if 40% of only 40% of the people are passing the test, if you took a nationwide average, then there's either the schools are not doing a good job or there's something wrong with the test. Because 40%, you just can't. I mean, how many people are satisfied with 40% on any test for anything?
Well, I think what the difference is that this is a relatively new test that requires a lot of analytical thinking.
Okay.
And it is a very rigorous, high standard test that was created by actually the Governors Association across the state started looking at what they could do to have standards nationally. And the tests that we had previous to this PARC test were very, very easy, and lots of kids passed them. But it didn't mean that everybody was doing great. So I think we've changed the standards. We've raised the standards across the nation, and certainly in Maryland. Maryland is actually a fairly higher than average performing state on most tests. And, I think that the situation is kind of similar in other states. So the education community is trying to get to think in a different way to be more proficient.
Well, first of all, let me just say that there's a good chance if I took the test, I'd flunk it. So I'm not, I was never very good on tests. But if I were to ask a teacher in the Baltimore school district at a high school or a grade school, would they agree that the test is really hard and that and that's the perspective they take when looking at the scores?
I think if you asked almost any teacher in the state whether the test is hard, you'd find that they'd say yes.
Okay.
But certainly in the city, yes, of course they would.
Yeah. Now, Dunbar High School I have here, again, I don't know what test this is, but the number that I have here is 5% proficient in math, 12% in reading. That's 95% of the kids in the school are not proficient in math. Again, that's a ridiculous number, and it's either the testing is bad or the kids ain't getting math.
Right. I mean, I think that was algebra, and there is a problem with the way the algebra was reported, which maybe you don't want me to go into the details of, but one of the reasons that is so low, and it is low in lots of school districts, is that most of those kids at Dunbar actually passed that test in 7th grade or 8th grade because they took it in middle school. So the better math students all took it and passed it in middle school. So the kids who couldn't pass it at Dunbar were probably the kids who are very bad at math.
Okay. And there's another one. 3,804 students in the Baltimore schools took the state math test. One kid tested proficient out of 3,804.
I don't know where that's coming from.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I've never seen that number.
The other one is only 13% of Baltimore City students passed the state English test. 13%.
Yes, that's correct. I think it was 17. I think it's 18%.
Well, that still stinks. But 18.
It stinks, yeah. But let's be accurate.
Yeah, right. I mean, but I don't know. You cover this, and you know 1,000 times more about this than I do. But I just look at when somebody tells me that 82% of the students didn't pass an English test, then how much worse would it be if they used janitors and bus drivers to teach English? I mean, what would it be? 15%? I mean, at what point does somebody have to be held accountable for a number like that?
Well, I think that's very demeaning to the city school teachers.
Well, I'm just saying if the teachers are being paid to teach,
they're worthless and I would never say that they're worthless.
I don't want to say that either. But you know what I'm trying to get at here is if the teachers are being paid to teach and the kids aren't learning. There's teaching and there's learning, and learning isn't happening if only 18% of the people pass an English test. That's fraudulent. That's not even education, is it?
I believe that the test is very difficult, and I believe that the teachers are actually doing, trying their hardest. Most of them. I don't mean every teacher, but most of them.
Uh-huh.
When you go into the city schools and you talk to students about the kind of background they're from and what's going on in their neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah.
There are many homeless kids. There are kids who are living in neighborhoods with a lot of violence. There are kids who haven't had enough to eat, who don't have, stable homes. And they're you're right, they're not doing well, but I'm not sure that that's entirely the fault of the teachers.
No, I don't think it is. But here's the thing, Liz, that if they score, if they're poor now and they score, they flunk, they can't pass an English test, they're going to be poor probably 10 years from now and 20 years from now. That's the sad thing.
That's why I think that the new Sonia Santelises has tried to be very, very focused on where she puts her money. So she is putting money in curriculum and looking very, very carefully at what are we teaching kids. She feels that for too long the teachers haven't been given really good quality curriculum.
Well, who's responsible for that? I mean, who's been in charge of the curriculum for all these years?
Well, different superintendents, and the overall superintendents has been very quick.
Oh, okay. That's what you said earlier, that the turnover.
Yeah. And I think that there hasn't been, I think one of the failings of the leadership in the last decade or so has been that they haven't paid attention to what's going on in the classroom and spent more time on sort of organizational issues or other sort of quicker fixes. And I think that's what many who I've talked to have analyzed in terms of the school system's troubles, that not enough attention was being paid to what are we teaching kids each day in the classroom, as opposed to how are we organizing schools.
Right. Last thing, Liz, and I only have like 30 seconds and up against a hard break. Quick, is school choice an issue down there? And are there people in favor of it?
There is school choice for every child in middle and high schools. So every child can decide from on where they're going to go to school. And there are 33 charter schools that are increasingly popular.
Okay. Hey, Liz, I really appreciate you taking the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back.
With SRN News, I'm Keith Peters in Washington. Authorities are searching for answers to why a 19-year-old opened fire on a popular garlic food festival less than a mile from his parents' home in California. Police Chief Scott Smithy says it appears the gunman didn't act alone.
We did have reports of a potential second suspect. We don't have any confirmation that any second suspect did any shooting, but we certainly are investigating all leads to try to determine who that potential second suspect is and what exactly that person's role was.
Smithy says the gunman was identified as Santino William Ligon. Smithy says the 19-year-old Ligon appeared to randomly target people when he fired with a rifle Sunday afternoon, the end of the three-day Gilroy Garlic Festival, which attracts more than 100,000 people. On Wall Street, they're up by 29 points. This is SRN News.
You know, I'm not a genius about money. I love my credit cards, and they love me. I was using them as a source of income, and then I got behind in my payments, and creditors were calling. I figured I had a problem, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I heard about Trinity, so I called and talked to a counselor. In half an hour, we worked out a plan. Now I've got one easy monthly payment, a lower interest rate, and I'm getting out of debt.
If you're in an endless cycle of paying on credit card balances that never seem to go away, then get ready for a toll-free number that will put you on a path to financial recovery. Trinity will consolidate your accounts, put a stop to late fees and over-limit charges, reduce your interest, and possibly improve your credit score. You'll save thousands. If your debt has you down, we should talk. Call 1-800-990-6976. That's 1-800-990-6976. Call 1-800-990-6976.
Joe Walsh has seen it all from the left.
Christine Quinn is her name, giving the Democrat view on abortion.
When a woman gets pregnant, that is not a human being inside of her. It's part of her body.
I've heard a lot. You heard her. It's not a human being. What is it then? A fish? What is it? A pineapple?
The Joe Walsh radio program. Weeknights at 9, right after Larry Elder at 7 on AM 1250. The Answer.
Community Bank,
City Mission,
Number 1 Cochrane,
Highmark Stadium,
Peters Township Community Center,
Angelo's Restaurant.
What do all these businesses have in common?
Nello Construction.
Design and build with one company.
Nello Construction.
Full service construction from the ground up.
Renovation. Expansion.
Nello Construction. The choice for business.
See the projects.
Begin the journey
at nelloconstruction.com.
You started your business with nothing but a great big idea. They told you it couldn't be done, but that just made you work harder to prove them wrong. Now look at you, ready to take on the world. Speed Pro Pittsburgh South gets where you're coming from. When they said they wanted to create great big graphics for great big ideas like yours in less time than anyone else, they were told it couldn't be done. Speed Pro Pittsburgh South just smiled and said, "Oh yeah? Watch us." When you need a large format printing partner who can provide high quality visual graphics in stunning detail, from trade show displays to outdoor signs, 3M brand vehicle wrap for your fleet, to window graphics, banners, and decals, Speed Pro Pittsburgh South can handle most jobs in 2 days or less, and can roll with last minute change-ups without breaking a sweat. Who says it can't be done? For a free quote, visit speedpropghsouth.com.
Hey there.
What's up, bruh? Hello.
Aloha.
Hey, y'all.
Hey.
Hola. Hi.
It takes a lot of voices to create the sound of us. The Y welcomes all of them with open arms. From career readiness to safe spaces, the Y is there, no matter who we are. Now, more than ever, they need your support. Support your local Y today. The Y, for a better us.
Read by members of the Y.
Stuck in traffic? We've got the answer.
Got delays on 79 both ways approaching Bridgeville. There is an accident causing that. Also northbound 79 busy Mount Nebo Road up to 910. Now on the Parkway East, it is stacking up outbound Boulevard of the Allies to Edgewood Swissvale. Inbound slows down Forest Hills to the Squirrel Hill Tunnel and some volume from County Jail to the Fort Pitt Bridge. On the Parkway West, not doing too badly there, just seeing pretty much the typical rush hour volume. That's Look at Traffic. I'm Jenny Robinson.
AM 1250, The Answer. Weather.
Sunshine will mix with some clouds this afternoon. It will be very warm and humid, a high of 87. Tonight, a partly cloudy sky will drop down to 68 for an overnight low. Then tomorrow, clouds and some breaks of sunshine, a humid day, but not quite as warm as today with a couple of showers and even a heavier thunderstorm. Tomorrow's high 79. More clouds, the sun on Wednesday with a shower or storm around. Wednesday's high 79. With your AccuWeather forecast, I'm meteorologist Brian Thompson.
This is the John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250 and FM 92.5. The Answer.
Forbes Field was Forbes Field for about 60 years. Three River Stadium was Three River Stadium for 30 years, and Pitt Stadium was Pitt Stadium for 74 years. But that was before teams found out that they could be paid millions of dollars for a name. Heinz Field may not be Heinz Field after the 2011 season. The 20-year deal with Heinz is up, in case you didn't know. and getting the taxpayers to pay for your stadium and then getting lots of money from somebody else to put a name on it. It's a pretty good deal if you can get it, and just about every major sports team in the country has one. Frank Gamrat is the executive director of the Allegheny Institute. He knows all about the deals that the local teams got, and he joins us now. Frank, thanks for being here.
Hey, John, thanks for having me.
So how much money did the Steelers get for naming the stadium that we paid for after a ketchup company?
Well, the ketchup company signature sauce, 57. They got $57 million over 20 years, so
nice.
roughly like $2.5 million a year.
Okay, and that is paid out at they pay the Steelers the $2.5 million a year. They didn't get a lump sum.
Every year. Yeah, every year it came in installments. And, of course, as you noted, in 2021, 20 years will be up, and, of course, that naming right will then be up for bids because, as you astutely noted, Heinz has said, yeah, we're not interested anymore.
Yeah, and the reason I guess Heinz won't do it is because Heinz...
well, it's not Heinz anymore, really.
They're not located
Kraft
here?
Heinz.
Yeah, it's Kraft.
Yeah, well, they merged with Kraft, and so their headquarters are chiefly in Chicago. So while they still have a presence here, it's awfully small. So, yeah, they're just bugging out.
Wow. Now, is that $57 million over, what is it, 20 years?
20 years, correct.
Yeah. Is that below market value now?
You know what actually is? I do think that, again, even in the early days, I think it was a little probably lower than what they probably could have gotten. But, obviously the Steelers aren't going to tell us what kind of bids that they had for it. For the stadium, because they're a private company, they really didn't tell us a whole lot about a whole lot of anything, but by looking across the parking lot there, PNC Park, which also has its 20-year lease up in 2021, because they played their first game in April of 2001, and the Steelers played in August of 2001, so their deals run the same length. PNC Bank paid $30 million over 20 years for PNC Park, like $1 million and some change a year there. So the Steelers got a much better return on their naming rights than the Pirates did for a stadium to use a whole lot less.
And I know this isn't your department, but I'm just wondering, is that just because the Steelers were better salesmen, made a better deal?
I think it's because it's a better product. Let's face it, the value of a naming rights is going to depend on what's going on inside that stadium.
Mm-hmm.
How much, you're looking at 50, 60,000 people at a Steeler game versus nowadays 18,000 people at PNC Park, and even a full capacity is 30,000 or so. And I do think that it really becomes a matter of how many more fans you're going to get in there to see that banner. It's a marketing tool for these companies, and they want value for their dollar, and everyone loves the Steelers. They're on national TV all the time. They have how many Monday night games and Sunday night games. Heinz Field really is front and center in the national media, whereas PNC Park not so much, largely due to the product on the field.
The number that the Steelers got, the $2.5, basically $2.5 million a year, that matches what they were supposed to pay in rent conveniently, right?
Correct. Yeah, conveniently it was. We did this one once before. The way the rent agreement between the Sports and Exhibition Authority, which actually owns the stadium, and the Steelers themselves is roughly $2.5 million a year. And so, look, again, as we discussed before, this lease was set up to give this team a boatload of money, and they're getting a boatload of money. Almost everything is designed for them to not pay the rent. As we said before, there's a clause in this lease that allows them to deduct from their lease payments taxes paid to the state or to the locals, and then in the second round it gets multiplied by a factor of 10. And so they're really not paying anything. So that $57 million, while they may have pledged it towards the construction of the stadium, largely sat in their pocket.
Did they pay? And I want to say again, I say it every time. I don't blame the Steelers one bit. I don't blame the Pirates. I would take the same deal in 2 seconds. I blame the politicians. So did the Steelers? What the Steelers when they were negotiating for this, did they have any leverage? I mean, was there any reason to just throw everything at them and just? I mean, did anybody really believe they were leaving? No, I can't believe that.
Well,
Mike, you do believe a politician would be stupid enough to believe that?
Exactly, and that's the fear that the Steelers struck in him. Because if you remember, and you were heavily involved in this area back in the late '90s, they threatened to leave. You don't give us what we want, we'll go look elsewhere. And I found an old article in the Post-Gazette that said that they were shopping around for new locations. They weren't going anywhere. Anybody with half a brain knew they weren't going anywhere. I even questioned whether the Penguins were going to go to Kansas City, even though they stood there and shook their finger at everybody and said they were leaving. They have a built-in market. They have a built-in fan base. They really weren't going in there, especially the Steelers. I mean, my goodness, the Steelers are synonymous with Pittsburgh anymore. So it really was not a credible threat, but no politician wanted to be known as the one who let them go on the minuscule chance that they might go. So, yeah, they front-loaded this thing with all the incentives they could get to keep the Steelers in Pittsburgh, even though there's really no threat.
And what's the number going to be like for this next naming rights?
You know what? That's a really good question. We're batting that around the office here. And when this deal is done in 2021, there's only 9.5 years left on the lease. Mm-hmm. Because in 29.5 years, the lease becomes null and void, and you have to start a new one. So does the team negotiate a 9.5-year naming right deal with some company? Because if they negotiate 20, then there's going to be the insinuation that when they're done with this lease, they're going to sign another lease. So there's going to be some legal wrangling here that's going to have to be done for the next naming rights. Just not sure what the length's going to be, because I'm not sure. I mean, look, I'm not an idiot. You're not an idiot. We know they're going to be here. I mean, I think the real reason they dumped Three River Stadium is because they didn't like sharing with the Pirates. They wanted all the stuff for themselves, and the Pirates were the same way. So now that they have their own stadium, I have no doubt they'll sign another contract, at least to be here for the next 20 years. So they'll probably go with a 20-year commitment, naming rights with somebody, or if they do it 9.5 up front, there'll probably be some kind of understanding, wink, wink, nod, nod, that when they sign a new agreement, you'll get the other 11 years. So it's really going to be a matter at this stage of who, because we know the Steelers will do it because they get the money. According to their lease, they get 100% of the naming rights in their pocket. Now, I was reading some article where they're saying there's still some NFL teams that don't have naming rights. We're talking Soldier Field, Lambeau Field, Arrowhead Stadium. So at $2.5 million, the Steelers probably really don't need it, but they're not going to walk away from $2.5 million. The question now is, which company in Pittsburgh is going to step up and do it? Not really sure.
Yeah, and the amount of money, $2.5 million, you would think that's going to go up.
I would. So, I mean, heck, you can't even get a good backup center for that.
Yeah. Now, the other question is, and then I want to get to the Pirates in a second about this, because I think it's a different question for the Pirates for a different reason. But any chance? I mean, I know it's a stupid question, but the local politicians, if they really wanted to, could drive kind of a hard bargain for the new lease, couldn't they? They could say, hey, we're starting over. This is the way it's going to work.
Theoretically, they could, but we know the politicians around here, they probably wouldn't. They'll probably tell the Steelers, we'll just, we'll renew the entire agreement. Just slap new dates on it, re-sign it, and let her go. I can't imagine the Sports and Exhibition Authority getting tough, and they need to be tough. I mean, here's the problem. As our last time we talked about this thing's going to start to break. Its capital expenditures are going to go up, and technically, there's the SCA is supposed to take some. They get a little bit of revenue from the gates, from the teams, put into a capital reserve fund so that they can make some repairs. They need to put more in there, because as this thing ages, it's only going to get harder to maintain. Mm-hmm. So they need to put more money in. So they should renegotiate this lease and say, we need you to drop more money as capital repair fund, because we can't keep going to the taxpayers and saying, hey, can you give us more money to change out your scoreboard? Can you give us more money to repaint your luxury suites? The SCA really should get tough and say, put more money into this reserve fund so we can maintain this thing.
Yeah, and the Steelers are doing much better now than they were 20 years ago, and they were doing pretty well 20 years ago, right?
Oh, absolutely. I found a 2003 valuation of $600 million.
What is it now?
2.5 and some change.
Sounds like a quadruple.
Billion with a B. It quadrupled. And, I was trying to find what it was in 2000 because obviously with the new stadium, and just about every time a sports team gets a new stadium, their value doubles, if not more than doubles, because the revenue streams within the stadiums nowadays are just tremendous. These sports teams are making a killing, so their values are really jumping up. I mean, gee whiz, even the lowly Pirates are worth a whole bunch more money than the Nuttings paid for them way back when. And it's all because of the revenue streams that are generated within these stadiums. I always laugh when someone would say to me, well, they're going to build all these restaurants outside the stadiums. And I say, you're nuts. It's not in the owner's best interest for you to eat outside the building.
Right.
They want you eating inside the building because they get that money.
And there aren't a lot of restaurants over there, are there?
Oh, not really.
The Bettis one, and I haven't been over there.
There's I think there's a steakhouse over by PNC Park, but that's about it. Anytime, and there have been a lot of bars that have come and gone because no one eats outside; they're all eating inside. Every year, some TV station, if not all of them, will tell us about all the new offerings at this park or that field, and how we should all want to go eat inside.
Yeah, that's right. But the Steelers' value has quadrupled since they gave them the stadium.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know if there's anybody else in the local sports media other than myself who has actually kept talking about this. Because, and again, I don't have anything against the Steelers. I don't hold one grudge against them. I think it's great that they've been able to work a deal like this. I don't understand why the media don't hold the politicians responsible for this and say, hey, make a tougher, drive a harder bargain.
The only thing I can think of is the media loves the Steelers because they sell papers or they sell advertising. It's really kind of interesting how almost every newscast on a lot of newspapers nowadays, it's all Steelers all the time. We just started training camp. But yet all they want to talk about is, let's look at this player. Oh, this guy was a free agent brought in from middle of nowhere university. Let's talk about his backstory. I don't care about these guys until the ball kicks off for the regular season in September.
Yeah, but they get the coverage. So I want to get to the Pirates now. They promised that they said that they had to get this ballpark if they could be competitive in baseball's ridiculous revenue situation. And they've had 4 winning seasons since they moved in there. One of them was last year where they were, I think, 2 games over 500. So
that is correct.
They stink, and now they stink again. So where are they going to be when the lease is up here? Are they a different situation than the Steelers are in?
I think they're in a slightly different situation simply because they're not as popular. And granted, when their naming rights are up in 2021, will PNC Bank step up and say, yes, we want this? It could drive their value down. They're just not putting the people in the gates that everybody thought that they would. Again, the team stinks. It's just not valuable. Nobody wants to deal with it. And so in 9.5 years after that, when their lease is up, will they go to the SCA and say, yeah, we'd like the same thing? Because they're another team. Now, they have to pay a little bit more in rent, but not a whole lot. But again, they get the same tax credit, so if they pay the taxes, they don't pay anything in rent. And again, I've not seen any real payments from the teams to the Sports and Exhibition Authority, so I'm going to say that to this point, they're still paying nothing. That, will they still get the same sweetheart deal? Again, the SCA's got to go to them and say, we need to keep this building up. You've got to start putting some money in this capital reserve fund at the very least.
And there's no way the politicians could just say, listen, the party's over here. The lease is up, and if you want to keep playing here, we're in charge. It's our stadium, and this is the way it's going to be. They can't, not that they would, but could they?
Right. It would be very refreshing if they would. And I think with the Pirates, they may take a harder tone because, you upset 18,000 people.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to because, again, Pirates have, 150-year history with us.
Yeah.
And they're not going to be one. They don't want to be known as the county executive or mayor who kicked out the Pirates. Although they get you more votes, if you want to be honest with you.
Well, Frank, I appreciate you being on as usual. Frank Gamrat of the Allegheny
Thanks for
Institute.
having me.
Yeah, you're my go-to guy for all things stadium stupidity, and the lease being up, the naming rights going up, I had to call you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, I greatly appreciate it. You have yourself a great day.
All right, thanks. That's Frank Gamrat of the Allegheny Institute, and we'll be right back. I'm here with Miracle League of Moon's Mike McGulick. Mike, I understand donations have slowed a little bit. How's progress?
A lot of progress since we last talked. Obviously, it's never as quick as you want it to be, but we're happy with where we're going to be coming into the summer.
You've broken ground on the field house. Foundations are going in, but the playground's been delayed. What's the plan?
We'll continue to fundraise. We have a lot of great support. The community likes the project, so we're confident we'll get there in time to have the playground up for next year.
And remember, every dollar you give today goes directly to fund the building of this state-of-the-art field for the kids with special needs.
It'll be updated with ramping systems and different things so that individuals that have problems with their mobility will be able to get to the same spots that everyone else easily can get to.
Help keep the project on track. Visit miraclesinmoon.org with your donation today. Mike, as always, wish you good luck with this project. We'll be following it, and you keep us updated, okay?
I will. Thanks for all the support, and Pittsburgh, thanks for helping.
Give now at miraclesinmoon.org/donate. Sponsored by Robinson Town Center, a Zamias Properties entity.
The following is a true story. My name is David Bryant. When I was 37, my wife and I decided to get term life insurance through SelectQuote. Just 3 years later, I was diagnosed with ALS, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. Because of life insurance, the people I love most in this world will be protected no matter what happens to me. I know that the dreams I have for my family can still come true. Financial security, to stay in the home we became a family in, and for our children to be able to go to college. I reached out to SelectQuote because I wanted to share my story. If just one person purchases life insurance, I know I will have made a difference.
SelectQuote can find a 37-year-old male a $500,000 policy for under $1 a day.
If there are people you care about, you need life insurance. It may be the single most important financial decision of your life.
Don't put off protecting your family. Get your free quote now. Call 800-671-7070. That's 800-671-7070. 800-671-7070. Or go to SelectQuote.com. This is a paid endorsement. Get full details on the example policy at SelectQuote.com/commercials. Not available in all states.
Do you or your business have financial problems? Are you overwhelmed with debt? Then call me, attorney Dennis Spire, at 412-471-7675. My legal practice concentrates on bankruptcy law, debtor rights, and tax matters. I have over 30 years' experience as a former United States Department of Justice bankruptcy attorney and lawyer in private practice. I have represented thousands of cases faced with financial problems and lawsuits. This experience has provided me with the unique knowledge to assess and draft a plan of recovery for your financial problems. I can stop home foreclosures, repossessions, creditor lawsuits, and tax collection. Reorganize and get a fresh start. I have numerous office locations in the Pittsburgh area. Call and schedule your free consultation today at 412-471-7675 or visit my website at dennisspira.com. Don't delay. Call 412-471-7675. That's 412-471-7675.
Do you find yourself struggling to get comfortable while trying to read or watch TV in bed? Consider an adjustable bed from the Original Mattress Factory and elevate your sleep experience. Raise your head and feet to the zero-gravity position to help relieve joint pressure and provide optimal comfort. The Original Mattress Factory offers 2 models of high-quality adjustable beds at an excellent value. Both models are designed to pair perfectly with an original mattress. Visit an Original Mattress Factory location near you to find the perfect adjustable bed and mattress for you.
Sleep impacts your ability to focus, learn, and solve problems. But according to Harvard Medical School, only 11% of American college students are sleeping well. At the Original Mattress Factory, we can't guarantee that your college student won't stay up until 3 a.m. cramming before a big exam. But we can provide a hand-built, high-quality mattress at a factory direct price when they are finally ready to get some rest. Visit an Original Mattress Factory store near you or go to originalmattress.com to learn more.
Warning, listening to this program may expose you to toxic masculinity. The John Steigerwald Show on AM 1250. The Answer.
Well, let's finish up with some racism talk. With that, Donald Trump is a racist again over the last few days. We've heard that. One of my favorite columnists is Walter Williams. He's black, and he's a professor, economics professor at George Mason. He says that it's very easy to be a racist today. It used to be hard. You used to have to get a bunch of robes and some hats and maybe burn some crosses and really do something outrageous to be called a racist. But he writes, today all that's changed. To be a racist takes little effort. For example, one can sit back in his easy chair and declare that he's for across-the-board tax cuts. That makes you a racist. If you don't believe me, think back to 1994. This shows you how old this stuff is. Think back to 1994 when the Republican-led Congress pushed for a tax cut measure. Former U.S. House of Representatives member Charles Rangel from New York, denouncing the Republicans' plan before a Manhattan audience as a form of modern-day racism, said, it's not a spick or an N-word anymore. They say, let's cut taxes. A few months later, he compared the GOP's contract with America to measures in Nazi Germany, saying Hitler wasn't even talking about doing these things. So that's 25 years ago, it was still going on. And what Walter Williams says is, perhaps the easiest way to be labeled a racist is to suggest that a wall be built on our border with Mexico in order to keep people from Mexico and points south from entering our nation illegally. Also, a slam dunk charge of racism is to say that the standard practice of separating children from parents is Nazi-like. But imagine you are stopped with your child in the car and charged with a DUI in any of our 50 states. You're going to be arrested, and your child will be taken to Protective Child Services. The identical practice on our southern border is called racism. The bottom line is that when leftists have no other winning argument, they falsely accuse others of racism. Republicans cower at the charge and often give the leftists what they want. Black Americans who are octogenarians, of which he is one, he's 80-something, Black Americans who are octogenarians or nearly so need to explain what true racism is, not to correct what white liberals, but to inform young black people. See you tomorrow.
The John Steigerwald Show is a production of AM 1250, The Answer, and Salem Media Group.
Are you worried that the next market downturn could rob you of your wealth and your